Hello and welcome. This is Lindsay of Lindsay Lou Rogers for the Momentum Talk Show. And today I have with me Aaron of
Laux Design.
We are so happy to have you with us today, Aaron. I'll tell you everyone a little bit about what the Momentum Talk Show is, and then you will take it away and tell us all about you and how you came to be here in this space. So let's begin. The Momentum Talk Show stands for Monumental Opportunity Manifesting Extraordinary New Times Upon Man and Womankind. So we have Aaron with us today, and he's going to tell us about himself and how he got started and a little bit of history. So take it away, Aaron. Do you have any specific location you'd like to start in?
I don't know. I guess I'll just describe what I do. I'm an artist.
Yes, great.
I work mostly in wood and but also kind of mixed media, and it's all very sculptural. So lately I've been doing a lot of wall pieces, things that are wall relief and slightly sculptural, but in the past I've also made a lot of functional art, so furniture pieces and also some built-in and architectural projects as well.
Okay.
So I kind of have my fingers in a lot of little pots. I guess that my essential motivation with my artwork is about connecting to the natural world and really exploring what that means as a human being, like for myself, but in a bigger context too. Like what does it mean for us in this day and age to be connected to nature, to be a part of nature, and the ways that we're in opposition to nature and the ways that we can become more in harmony with nature.
Very well said. Yeah. And it seems like your art does really evoke that idea with the materials that you use. You're welcome. Yeah, the materials that you use and the design that you, I think you've had a theme a nature theme.
It's about nature. It's about also, where we are as human beings, so there's like a personal and spiritual connection too, like how we think, how we behave, and our relations to each other. And that for me, those are things that I kind of put into the work, or that they're in the background for me.
Yeah, those sound really inspirational. Is there anything that got you started in adding that to your art? Something that...
Yeah, this has all been an evolution over a long time. I've wanted to be an artist since I was 5 years old. So
since 5, okay, wow.
It's kind of been. I guess I'm one of those people who just I always knew I wanted to be an artist, but the road to becoming an artist was not what I expected. So even though I was focused that way, I've had quite a few different twists and turns along the way.
Yeah.
To get to this place right now where I'm making and selling artwork.
Yeah. Well, that takes a lot to be able to go that route. So how was it that you received support growing up? Was that something that people accepted in your family, or?
Yeah, my mom and dad both supported my artwork. They were very encouraging, and that was, I'm really grateful for that, because it would have made this so much harder. And it's challenging enough to become an artist in this world that we live in. There's lots of obstacles to essentially surviving as in a business sense, as an artist.
You want to talk about that for a minute?
Sure.
Yeah.
No,
you can tell the audience.
Yes. So I haven't always been like business or focused as much, and I've always sort of put the artwork first. And when I was younger, there was a lot of conflict around that, trying to integrate making art, expressing sort of like a real authenticity about myself and my ideas, and making money off of that, and trying to make things for sale.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
there's been an evolution over the course of my life on how do I become relevant in the world. And when I was younger like that, I couldn't bring that together. There wasn't enough. I didn't have the maturity, the experiences, the thick skin to be able to deal with the rejections and failures and all the other things that are pretty much part of becoming an artist. I mean, for every win you get, you have to have like 50 or 100 fails to get to that point. I'm sure that, like, you would ask any artist who's working now, and they would probably tell you the same thing, like how many times they've been rejected, how many proposals failed, and all. So yeah, you can't absorb that at a personal level. You have to be able to filter that through in a business context. At least that's kind of where I've come to, where I've in my integration of art and business. So I still place authenticity and my vision as an artist first. That's my first priority. But I try to do it in a smart way. So I know that when I create something, if I can reproduce it, and it's something I'm willing to do. I'm willing to reproduce a piece of work. It's my work. It's my mind and my intention and my vision. So I'm happy to make more than one. But by doing that, that's one way that I can leverage my creativity, my authenticity, in a business capitalist sense. I can use that. So
yeah, you talked about the real world, the world that we live in. This is the world we live in, and this is art. And I thought that was a really nice way of explaining how you can make what you love work in our world today.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to play the rules of the game, more or less. I mean, I try to bend the rules as much as I can, but it's you can't work against what's really happening in the moment. So that's my perspective. And I mean, I guess just I've noticed over time, as I've tried to do things like, well, I think this art piece will really sell, or I think this is what people will want. Every time I've done that, it's just flat out failed. And every time that I've actually made something that I really wanted to make, that I felt really good about, that was part of my passion, and again, that authenticity, right? I mean, I'm lucky. These are the pieces that are connecting with people and that are selling. So I'm following that train, and I'm, again, by just sort of by being able to do commissions and make reproductions, and also work with custom pieces for people. Like these are just sort of business. That's kind of the business end of making money as an artist that it worked for me. That's provided me with the outlet to do what I'm doing and feel really good about it.
And not everyone's been able to do that, so that's why it's interesting that you.
Yeah, there's so many pathways to living as an artist. I mean, obviously, you could be an educator. You could do, I mean, there's like lots of options, and I make something very physical too. Some artists make things that are more intellectually driven. Maybe they're digital, or they don't have as much of a physical presence, and you can share that in different ways. But I make an object and I sell an object. That's kind of the path that I'm on.
Okay. Yeah. And you have this new vein that's coming up now. Do you want to discuss this?
Well, yeah. I mean, part of keeping the authenticity and the work alive is that you gotta. I know. I mean, for myself, if I don't kind of push at the boundaries of what I'm doing, what I've done in the past, then it does begin to feel stale and like, like it's like it's not in motion, right?
Oh.
So
Hence the momentum.
The momentum, emotion.
Right.
Yeah. So it's really important to me to push myself in that way. This is completely separate from the business stuff. This is purely about me as an artist, as a human being. Again, those bigger ideas I talked about at the beginning of like, you know, kind of who are we? How do we relate to nature? How does nature relate to us? And how can we learn and become better, you know, and more connected? Those are the kind of things that spur my new vein of artworks, right? Like that's where I find myself being pushed into new areas. So dreams are something that I've started to like work with a little bit. And, you know, dreams being, I think for all of us and in every culture throughout all of human history, are essentially like the origin of our creative expression, like of our emotions, of how we become intuitive, how we integrate that with our rational and awake side living, you know, awake part of our being, right? So I'm just remembering a few dreams that I've had that were sort of like about transformation. And so I'm depicting, like right now I'm working on one in which Aaron, am having a transformative experience. And so as I depict that, like almost like a self-portrait, but I'm hoping that will resonate with other people, because we're all experiencing transformative moments in our lives. And, you know, being able to access that personally at the level of dream in each of us, I think is really a profound thing. So I'm just trying to put that out there. I don't know what that is, what that even means yet, because I'm just still initiating this new work, but that's kind of that's one thing that I'm working on.
Yeah, and hopefully it will inspire others.
If it does, that's great. I would feel good. Yeah.
That's great. Okay, I think there was something else I wanted to ask you. Oh, making art a priority. You mentioned that you did that from a very, like from the beginning of your career.
I did,
in the
yeah.
working world.
Yeah, I mean, to the extent that when I was actually in college, I went to art school here I went to the University of Madison, Wisconsin.
Okay.
And I did not graduate. I was really close, but I bailed. And the reason I bailed out was because I didn't feel like what I was learning was aligned with what I knew in my heart art was to me. And and I felt that by being like, you know, when you're a student, when you're learning and when you're absorbing information from outside, right, that it's a very vulnerable place to be in. And there was a real dissonance for me between what I was being taught and what I knew in myself and my heart was what art was really about. And I think that what I was learning was even detrimental to that. So I actually made the decision to abandon learning or you know, to going to school, right? And I stopped going to university. And at the same time, I was also very lucky because I had an apprenticeship, and I was working with a woodworker, and that sort of pushed me into the direction of wood and sculpture. I mean, I've always been really connected to three-dimensional, so it was and I think when you talk to artists, when you talk to sculptors in particular, sculptors often have a really visceral connection to their material. And so for me, that's true. I mean, wood really speaks to me at a deep level. And so especially in terms of like what I expressed earlier about, you know, connection to nature and the cycles and how we are a part of, you know, wood is completely a natural living organism itself. And, you know, so there's a lot there for me.
Yeah, I'd
you
love
know.
for you to actually explain a little bit to the audience about all the parts that you do, because I know that you actually dry the wood too.
Well, I've gotten, I'm pretty involved in harvesting material, and
Wow.
I salvage a lot of material. I cut. I never really cut a living tree. That's not. I it, I like to use things that either were blown down in storms or have been cut for other reasons, and so I've got this very, like recycler kind of mentality going on.
Great. Yeah.
And it's recycling, repurposing, and reusing, and all that. So it's
Yeah.
a kind of environmentalist ethic. But
Uh-huh.
I mean, wood requires a process. I mean, you have to take the log and cut it, and then you have to dry it, and it has to be cured. And this all is a process that takes time. Oftentimes, from initially cutting a tree to sawing it and air drying it and then kiln drying it and then to actually making something, it could be a year-long process.
Okay.
I mean, you could do it faster, but oftentimes that's what it takes. And so and then I've also started to get into this kind of post process too. Like, while I have all this waste material, like the sawdust and everything, I've been learning how to make a medium for growing mushrooms.
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of like another, like connecting it to a cycle. So there's a lot of process involved with wood, and I'm also interested in using wood species and parts of trees that are considered not viable otherwise in a commercial sense, right?
Right.
Oftentimes I'm using sort of either bark or the weathered, like all around you can see in the background, and or weathered surfaces of wood, and so the only way that I can obtain that material is to get it myself, right? So that's a lot of the reason reason why I've become connected to harvesting and processing my own materials. And another thing would be trees like box elder, for example, which is just this incredibly beautiful wood. It's perfect for sculpting, and the way that it dries and cures. I mean, there's a lot of technical, I've got a lot of technical information I could share, but
yeah, I don't think everyone knows the depth process.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I like to favor, I use a variety of different species that you wouldn't normally see, is what I'm trying to say.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And you've done quite a few community projects as well.
Well, I've worked on a few things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So,
yeah.
So if anyone wants to see some of his art, you can probably hop around town and see a few things. And so it sounds like you've turned that new leaf, and you've really gone on to life-changing art here.
Well, I mean, it's changing my life.
And that's how it starts, right? And then
yeah.
Change others. Maybe.
I mean, I've honestly, like when I think the most rewarding moments for me are when I can see somebody else genuinely and deeply connecting with something I've made, and that's like, I mean, it's just such a pure heart feeling, like again, that idea of relevance, in the world, that makes me feel relevant, right? It's like at that moment, it's like, it's all well and good that I've built this whole business and making money and all this other stuff, but that is really what is significant, is like that somebody else can receive that, because it's really a deep part of, I'm really sharing this deep part of myself, my emotions. It's very visceral and physical in that sense, like of transferring that. So yeah.
And that kind of goes to the idea of the value of art
Value of art. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of an
artist being valued.
It's hard. I mean, our culture right now doesn't value artists. It doesn't value a lot of professions, especially professions of service, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But artists are always, I mean, art is always considered negotiable. Like, I mean, it's one of these things where the first question is always, will you do it for free? You know, like, I mean, do you ask a doctor or lawyer if they're going to do it for free? You know, I don't know. It just, it doesn't, yeah, it's like, as a professional, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just, you got to fight against this perception that the work is actually of little value.
Mm-hmm.
And so, which is completely not true. It's just, so anyway, I always, I try to really maintain a high degree of value. I like to try to portray that and convey that, and as much as possible, not only for myself and what I do, but for other artists. I mean, I think we need to do this for each other, because if, you know, I mean, yeah, if my work is devalued, it values other artists and their work.
Great statement.
Yeah. We're in it together.
That's a great way for,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, it's.
Oh, I just was going to say that adds to this community aspect of you valuing yourself and your art and the benefit it has to so many other people. It's
right.
not just one person valuing or devaluing. It's as you do it, it rises the whole.
Yeah. And I mean, personal perspective and view is just that, you know, I think that the world that we're in right now focuses a little too much on scarcity rather than on abundance. And, you know, and it's like, I don't see other artists as like my competitors. I see them as my colleagues. I see them as part of a bigger community. And,
yeah,
you know, if I'm making money on a certain project, it's not like a zero-sum game where somebody else is not making money on
right.
this thing, right? And I mean, it's just, every artist is so different, so unique, and their work is so specific, and, you know, it's like everything is a niche, right? So we're better if we just try to help and support each other and be open than to consider there to be a competitiveness, or again,
right.
It's about scarcity versus this idea of abundance, you know.
And you've done some collaborative work.
I've done a few things, yeah.
So you wanted to touch on that, because that's inspiration for other artists too. That's really great to be able to come together. I'm sure there's great inspiration that comes from each person's individuality coming to the table. That's really great.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, it's great. It was great to learn about you today. Is there anything else you'd like to share with everyone else out there? Anything you want to show?
I don't know. I think we covered a lot of ground, you know. Thanks for interviewing me. It was nice to talk to you.
Yeah, it was great to hear a little bit more about yourself and the business and the history of how you got started and your bigger vision and the meaning behind your work. I think that's really powerful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us today. Well, we will wave at you until next time. And that's it for today.